Okay, what I understand some of it, it is the Ronald Hubbs Center for Lifelong Learning, and Ronald Hubbs was president of an insurance company. He had a sister, a Catholic sister, a nun, working in his offices teaching English to some refugees. During the Vietnam War, one of his staff, and I don't know if it was the vice president of the company, their son, this person's son, was shot down in Vietnam. And the only reason he lived was because the Hmong people found him, as opposed to the Vietnamese, and they took him in, they saved his life. So he mentioned this to Mr. Hubbs, that he felt really deeply indebted to the Hmong people. So they funded this place. Come from the state of Minnesota, from the federal government, and we also get some grants from different companies, organizations that give money away, but you have to write a grant and proposal and say, we would like money, and they have to say, because we want to do this, and then they read it and say, that sounds good, we'll give you some money for that. So most of the bulk of our money, though, comes from the state of Minnesota and from the federal government. There's a volunteer coordinator here at the Hubs. Her name is Ruth Rodriguez. We have a lot of volunteers here, but most of them are either retired senior citizens who come and sit, or there's also a lot of college students that are taking classes, and their colleges require them to do some amount of community service, and they will come for anywhere from 6 weeks to a whole semester. We've called the Hubs, and Ruth does an orientation for them to train them, how to help. And then after they go through orientation, then she puts them in classes wherever they can help. I've been working a lot on reading, or trying to work on reading, because my students are lower level, so I've been doing a lot of workshops and a lot of study on how do people learn to read. But what I have done is go to workshops and go to conferences and listen to teachers who are practicing, and they say, this is what I'm doing in class, and you get some really good ideas sometimes, and reading, research, etc. But I really try to go and listen to other teachers who have, when they present their ideas at conferences, the way that works is they say, I want to talk about this, and they submit their paper. The people who are doing the conference have all these papers. People say, I'll talk, and they sift through and they pick the best ones. So you get a nice, so I've enjoyed, my technique is to go to conferences and try and find things that I think will help with my class. And then each class is different, each person is different. So what works with this student, we need to find something else to work with this other student, because they have a different learning style. So it's important to try to find as many different ways of doing something as possible, I guess. So that's not an answer. Challenges are, I'm in the evening, and a lot of my students, most of my students work. And I don't blame them at all. If I worked a long day and I was tired and it was snowing outside, when it came time for class from 5 to 8, I think, I'm just going home. So I think a lot of what I see a lot with my classes is that attendance is, there are some students who come every day. There's 4 days a week of class, but some are like 2 days a week. And the thing with that is that it slows down progress. So they're not consistently coming to class. So I see people, I've had people almost falling asleep in class a couple times because they've worked all day. They were maybe up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. They made breakfast for the children. They got their families, the children off on the bus to school. Then they went to work themselves. And they work all day, then they come to English class. After English class, they go home, they cook dinner, they do the laundry, they get everything ready, they clean the house, and then they finally go to bed. And then they get up at 4:30 in the morning, and they get there. So I hear this, and I'm amazed at the people who do come. They're making a great sacrifice to come and work on their English here. I have one lady in my class now, she's a single mom, 9 children. She comes to class, and she comes every day. And she takes classes at another, she was taking classes at the International Institute, and she's working as a PCA, and she's coming to this class, and she's got, depending on what their background in schooling was before they got here to the U.S. Some people have had the opportunity to go to school, and they sort of know the school routine, like keep your papers in order. But we have some who they never had the opportunity to go to school. It's the students who, through no fault of their own, if they've come from Civil War, or if they've come from just no opportunity to go to school. They're in school, and they don't have that background experience. And you can just tell the people who have gone to school before, know how to study, they do their homework, their papers are organized, they ask questions. And the people who have not, well, where did they learn it? They didn't. Students who come who have not learned to read in their own language first. So learning to read in English, if you haven't learned to read in your own language, is, I think, more of a challenge. I think, in my opinion, I think people should learn to read in their own language first, and then learn to read in English or whatever other language. Into teaching ESL, I love to travel. When I was in high school, I was an exchange student. I went to Santiago, Chile, and lived with a family for 6 weeks, and then a girl from Santiago came and stayed at my house, and I've just always loved to travel. And I took French classes at the University of Nancy, and just have always loved traveling, so I thought I will teach English in some country, and that will give me a job. I'll have money to live on.